Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. On this week's episode, it's my absolute honor and privilege to have my good friend Russ Dobson. He is the frontman and composer of the UK black metal band Necronautical, as well as the guitarist for the band Winterfylleth. Him and I are very good friends, and we've known each other for quite some time now, since my presence in the UK, and we've even worked with each other on occasion and played quite a few shows and shared a lot of lineups together. So this was, I think, a very good conversation and perhaps a good insight into what goes on in the minds of two people who perhaps have a similar position within their own bands, and a similar but also at the same time different approach when it comes to music and composition and so on. So yeah, coming very shortly will be our conversation and the deep dive that Russ and I took on this week's episode. But before we continue, as always, I just wanted to say thank you all for listening to the Iblis Manifestations podcast. All of the feedback, shares, subscriptions are very much appreciated. And what I would also appreciate is if you could perhaps rate the show. And you can, of course, rate this as honestly as you wish, but you can do this on any platform of your choosing, which, of course, includes Spotify as well. Anyhow, I'm going to keep this one short, and we're going to cut straight to the chase. Please welcome my friend Russ Dobson to Iblis Manifestations. Right, Russ, how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, doing fantastic. Actually, I seem to have occurred some kind of like a ritualistic thing that I go through before every single interview, and that is that I listen to the person's music. Obviously, if the person that I'm interviewing is a musician, during a gym session, just before the interview.
Ah, man, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've never done that. That would be far too self-gratifying. How was it for you, the Necronautical workout? Or did you listen to Winterfylleth?
Necronautical, I went with. I've listened to Winterfylleth before as well when I interviewed Simon, actually. But yeah, it was good, man. Not the first time I've done it, but it was pretty fucking good. I revisited Slaying the Spirit, your last album. Cool. And yeah, I noticed, man. It's like it's so much more metal compared to the other ones, you know, like the atmosphere is still there and it's powerful composition, but there's just that element to it that's more metal in a way, wouldn't you say?
I'm glad, yeah. I feel that way about it too. I think we don't really like go for anything like particularly before going into an album, like too much, because I feel like saying we're going to do one thing before we even begin is kind of like you're inhibiting new ideas. But if there was one thing we said before Slain, we did all sort of agree we want to make a heavier album than Apotheosis was. Like that was just kind of a given. So yeah, we wanted it to be more metallic and kind of bangers, I guess. So yeah, I'm glad you thought so. It's something I think as well. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it's one of them as well. I feel like out of all the stuff you've done before, this is the one where it seems to me that your band has sort of found this very organic sort of culmination of everything, be it the music, and there seems to be a very good relationship with how the songs translate into the live situation as well. It seems to me that obviously there's still complications within the riffs and whatnot, which you don't seem to make it very easy on yourselves on what you choose to play and sing at the same time.
Sure, yeah.
But there seems to be still, even with that in mind, it seems much more free-flowing. You know, like you guys, when I hear you and see you performing the new songs live, it seems that you're enjoying it a lot more.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, I think that was another factor in why the album sounds like it does and sort of how things came about, because what's weird with Necronautical is like when we started, it was a recording project, right, without much aspiration. So we did the demo album, Black Sea Misanthropy, and then we did the Endurance Night album for Cacophonous. And we hadn't really played live until after the Endurance came out. I mean, we did have a little period with a drummer where we played a couple of small shows, like way back. That was before we even had recorded even Black Sea, I think. But yeah, like most of the band's early life was just spent sort of songwriting and conceptualizing. So when we eventually, we signed with Cacophonous, did the Endurance, and they said, we really want to push you to do some shows. Could you find a drummer? And we thought, that was a big challenge at first, was finding the right guy to play drums. I initially joined as drummer, by the way, but I just kind of took over and wanted to progress with guitar playing and vocals. But obviously, we weren't really like too involved in the scene or even involved at all back then. I didn't know any extreme drummers except for myself at that time. And Necronautical songs are quite hard to play and they're quite fast. But yeah, so we got Rob in and we started touring the Endurance and started playing live a lot and candlelight sound as whatever. And it started off basically we sort of learned from our, not mistakes, but our experiences of playing live, playing the Endurance and Night songs live. Like we hadn't, I'd never sung them and played them at the same time. It wasn't so much a consideration when we were making that album. We just sort of thought, we'll just make whatever the hell we want and see what happens. And that was fine, it's all like kind of playable. But I think that as the years have gone on, with Rob on the drums and us playing, a lot of shows, you start to tune in a little more to like which tracks you like playing live, which the audience are responding to. And I think that's a two-way street. If we're comfortable with the song on stage, then the vibe increases, So I think we just started to like subconsciously learn from our experiences of playing live. And I would never restrict a song like based on like, we won't do vocals on that because it's too difficult. Like I would always challenge myself to learn it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's been kind of a natural thing just of having those experiences of performing songs that as the years have gone on, like it's just started to feel more of a band effort and just more organic. It kind of, we can feel our way a lot more now, and that's a consequence of behaving as a unit rather than it being a recording project led primarily by myself. So these albums have kind of seen us grow and make this transition from a studio project into a touring band. So I'm glad you feel that way about it. I'd say the same. It's just a consequence of being around each other longer, listening to each other more, and going with what feels natural. It's from life experience.
Absolutely, man. I'm 100% with you on that, because I think that there's definitely an element of, let's say, especially when you first get a band together, it's like when you're putting the ideas down, you've got all these things in your head, but only through a repetition of actually doing it live, you then, like you said, it's not that you avoid a challenge, but there has to be, I think, a fine balance between a song being challenging, but also enjoyable, And
sure, yeah.
I think, and obviously you can find the enjoyment in different aspects of it. Sometimes you can find enjoyment in the challenge of it, and that's probably why bands like Nile exist, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
sure.
I also think that there's this factor of, I think the more that a band is enjoying playing a song, then consequently, the more the crowd will also enjoy that song also. In Trivex, for example, we've got this song from our first album called Wormwood. And that is like the idea of the song was something that I felt very much connected to, and I felt very proud of it. And it is a powerful song to me, but it's a fucking nightmare to play it live, because of just how how the chord shapes are on the guitar and the vocals. And it's one of them things, even though it's one of the songs that I was the most proud of initially when we released that album, it's, it never had the best live reactions. And I feel like part of this was because we were just so fucking restricted trying to make sure that we made it through the song in one piece, that
Well,
it
sure,
kind
man,
of took away the enjoyment of it in a sense, you know. So I think it's good when you say that, you know, like you kind of grow together as a band. And that's why a lot of bands, when it comes to like the second or third album and so on, there's that sort of that organic element to it. I mean, you see that with Tribulation as well, you know, where
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like, what do we actually enjoy playing more? And then you gravitate towards that, so to say.
Yeah, it's not about like necessarily like pandering to like what people have enjoyed from us, but I do think you and I both understand there's an interaction between artist and audience, and yeah, like we love playing those songs, man. And there are certain songs from our back catalogue which have naturally stayed in the set list, not necessarily because they were singles or anything, because we don't choose them that way, but just because like they're the ones that we love to play, like Spits and Culpeth and The Endurance at Night. I think we released Neonautical, but almost like as time passes and you have these experiences of playing songs live, they come into a life of their own that they didn't have before you released them. And so yeah, I feel like about Spits and Culpeth like more as a live song now than a recording. When I hear the recording, it's kind of weird, you know. It's just like it has more life to it now the way that we play it. But hey, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel like we're progressing. I'm sure all the guys in Necro would agree with what you've said. And yeah, going forward, we're just going to try and run more with that, really. You know, just like try and jam things out like in the room a little bit more, and yeah, work things out together and just see what feels right. You know, the first two albums were very much like quite mapped out, you know, before we did them.
Yeah, of course. This is what I was saying as well. The reason why I mentioned that the crowd likes it, I think to me that's only always ever a consequence of the band enjoying themselves, because it gets to the point that even if they can't understand the music, if the band are having a good time, eventually the crowd's gonna give in, and that's my philosophy of it. But also, you as a frontman and composer have this sort of responsibility, if you will, of trying to imagine things from the perspective of everyone else involved, you know, to then create something that you have to then imagine in the rehearsal room when so-and-so person's doing this person's doing that. Is this all gonna land okay? And obviously I understand that the band has become more of a collaborative effort as the years have gone by, especially in the last couple of years, from my understanding, but it's still, I think, something that you probably have to consider when it comes to making the music. Obviously, besides expressing yourself and trying to create what's valuable to you.
Well, yeah. I think it's funny, like when we're sort of writing the album or finalizing an album, it's been the same the last few times. It's kind of like you almost know when you finish the song, like, yeah, okay, we'll be playing this one live, and that's not born of like what's hardest or whatever. Just get a feeling. Like I knew when we finished playing, like I was just like, yeah, definitely the title track will be great to play.
Sure.
And Hypnagogia, Necronautical, like we knew without even saying, like, okay, these are the songs that we'll learn for live. And there were other songs similar to what you mentioned about Wormwood that I really love, or the guys really love, that I've never played live and probably, maybe never will. Like the last song on The Endurance at Night, Fair, like I really feel a lot about that song. It's a very personal song for me musically, and also for Matt lyrically, who did the lyrics to that song,
Mm-hmm.
And it's still to this day one of my favorite Necronautical tracks. It's just I've never really had the inclination to play it live. I almost feel like it's just kind of a moment in time captured on record, and I almost like want to keep it that way. I just don't really feel like we'd be serving ourselves properly by playing it live, but interestingly,
is it sort of like your frayed ends of sanity or something?
Kind of just one of those times in my life, the declaration of the end of my mid-20s. I don't know. I just I feel like with that song, like something ended in my life and something else began, and it's just a little more personal, and I just don't really want to bring it to the audience somehow. Like I think some songs are just a listening experience, some are better for live. Whereas I think what was maybe different on Slain was that, probably all these songs were geared towards live. Usually we have like a few like softer moments here and there. I mean, like they are kind of there, but it's definitely more focused on hard metal kind of stuff. So, and that's a good thing. So we've just been booked to play the full album. So it's a good thing. I'm kind of happy to do the whole thing, you know.
Sure, I saw. That's next January, right?
Yeah. It's something that's quite exciting to do. Actually, we visited the album myself today just to try and like go like, because there's 3 songs on it we haven't played live before. I just like to kind of think about them, like, okay, how are we going to do this? Because like Necro has a ton of layers, and it's, you know, we don't always try them live before we go live with them. So I have to kind of listen to the recording, figure out who's going to do what. And
right, I see what you're saying.
Just work that out. That's another thing with like vocals and guitar playing at the same time as well. Like quite often on the records, like myself and James will play like both parts, like the rhythm and the leads is both of us. But that's not necessarily what we're going to do live, and that's quite often dictated by what's going on vocally. So we sort of make the decisions afterwards. So
I get what you're saying.
A full Slain set, which we've never done before, but yeah, having checked it out today, should be cool. Bit of work to do, but it's cool to have the opportunity and to have made an album that people responded well to and want to hear. That's a cool thing.
Well, fantastic, man. Yeah, it's awesome to actually see the band grow and watching yourself evolve as an artist and a musician through all of this as well. I mean, I'm going to go back in time a little bit. The very first time... What's that, sorry?
I totally cut you up. Same to you, though, by the way. You know, I could say the same to you in the time that I've known you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. I think in that regards the best is yet to come, but it's good to be sharing parts of that journey together. I think it's really fucking cool. You know, it's refreshing and very encouraging actually to have that company on the road, if you will. You know. So yeah, this is what I was gonna say to you, that the very first time I actually saw you live wasn't even with Necronautical. It was actually with your the old band Ethereal.
Yeah,
and you were still doing vocals for them, and that was, I believe, December 2015 with the Belphegor tour. Is that correct?
Really?
In Wolverhampton. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you were at that show? Yeah, I remember that show. That was a weird show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I speak to you that night?
I don't think so. No, I have a pretty good memory, and I think if we had done, I would have remembered it.
Yeah, I would have been embarrassed if you just said yeah. I know that I met you the first time in Birmingham, and it would have been at an Ethereal show.
Well, that was actually no. Birmingham was exactly 3 or 4 months after that, and that was when I did the very first show with Master Skull. Remember?
Yeah, that was Necronautical, wasn't it?
That was Necronautical. Yeah.
Was it? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You weren't even headlining, if I recall. It was.
Well, no, that must have been 20. It can't have been that early, man. Like
2017, I think.
Yeah,
March 2017.
More like that, because Necro didn't do its first show with Rob until like 2016. But yeah, it would have been really early days for us. Yeah, we were still like opening shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, so sorry, not a few months later, but a year and a few months later, because your very first show with Necronautical was actually supporting Dark Funeral in London at the Underworld, correct?
Yeah, fuck, that's true, yeah.
Not a bad first gig, huh?
Well, sure. Like, it was a cool booking, but that was a real baptism of fire, because like I say, like, this first album's recording project, we just kind of got Rob in the band. He didn't record the Endurance in the end, but like he was kind of prepping for the album's release to play those songs live. And so that show, okay, it's not like going to change the world, but it's fairly big. Dark Funeral, The Underworld, Crisian. And, you know, we released our album and had a good press, so we had like kind of something to live up to. And I had never done a show like vocals and guitar, and like there's a lot of firsts and kind of a lot of pressure behind it. It went okay, but we still had a lot to learn back then. You know, I guess we just learned it fast because we ended up having a lot to do. But
kind of jumping into deep water, isn't it? There was a lot of virginity to be lost in one night, right?
Yeah, that was totally it, man. You know, even like, well, you know, I've been on stage a million times before, but yeah, it was a unique circumstance. But we rose to the challenge. It wasn't like the greatest show we ever did, but well, we earned our stripes quickly. You know, we played a lot of shows and it came together. Now it's for years now, it's been really pretty smooth. You know, you learn just from doing it, don't you? You know, and the band's come together a lot if I'm just playing a lot of shows, you know.
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously, it's awesome, like I said, to see how the band has grown since then. But I'm just going back to what I mentioned about the Ethereal show. What's sort of your memories of those times and just being a vocalist, and how do you reflect back on those times now, obviously, with the success that you've had with Necronautical and obviously now with Winterfylleth as well, and everything that you've got upcoming?
Being a vocalist,
just in general, like your position in the band, but also the size of the band. What was your perception of things at the time? How you perceived the success of Ethereal, and now how do you look back at how you perceived that at the time, knowing what you know now and what you're experiencing with both Necronautical and Winterfylleth at the moment? That's where I'm coming from.
What a question, man. Okay, I've not talked about Ethereal for a long time. I do think about it sometimes. I'm in touch with some of those guys.
I like to dig deep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I enjoyed being in Ethereal for the most part, man. Like, particularly my time on stage. How did that come about? So I mentioned earlier that I'd done like a couple of small shows with Necronautical way early on, and nothing was really happening. And our drummer just left. And I was a little bit frustrated. And out of the blue, I got a message from Matt from Ethereal, and you know, from the position I was in at that time, like, they seemed to me to be like, you know, a bigger, more active band with stuff going on, and yeah, they liked my voice, so I joined that band, and yeah, like, things happened fast. Did a couple of high-profile shows with them. We got signed by Candlelight quickly. Did the album, and then we started touring. So, like, at that time for me, it was like, wow, like, cool, like, this is all happening. That's what I wanted, you know, what a lot of young metal musicians want, you know, is to get out, tour, record their album, whatever.
Absolutely.
I never, like, set out to be a vocalist, though. I felt that I was a good frontman. That side of me kind of almost surprised me. I suppose I wasn't used to not playing an instrument, and I felt a little bit like a fish out of water, so I just kind of just went for it and, you know, tried to be the kind of frontman I'd want to see live. And yeah, it was successful, man, and I enjoyed it. And there's not like that much to do. It's like creatively when you're a vocalist. Like, I did all the lyrics and vocal arrangements, and that was all good. And we were playing a lot of shows, and I enjoyed them. But I suppose being a creative person and wanting to write songs, like, it didn't fully satisfy me to just do that. So I always had intentions to continue making Necronautical's music and keep recording and playing guitar. But yeah, I was in Ethereal for 6 years. That was my main band. We did like quite a lot of stuff. It turned into like a fairly like unhappy situation towards the end. I'm not gonna go like into that because it wouldn't be like strictly fair or respectful. And nothing terrible. It's just that, like, I suppose like the last couple of years I was there, I knew that I wanted to move on. Things were difficult doing Necronautical and that at the same time. It seemed like a conflict of interest to some people, and I sort of knew in my heart of hearts, like, for me, I just kind of felt like Ethereal had done all it was going to do, and I could sort of recognize certain problems where I was just like, I just sort of knew it was time to leave, and my instinct was right. And yeah, Necronautical's gone on to do well, and I mean, Winterfylleth are, you know, very successful band as well, and none of this was expected in my life, you know, especially given that I only really started playing guitar like properly about 10 years ago. So not as long as others my age. But, like, you know, I don't measure like what I want to do based on like how successful it is. You know, it's not about like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad Necro got successful. Like, I just have to go with what I feel is right and sincere for me. And I didn't want to stay in a band that I didn't feel I was behind anymore. I felt like that would be disingenuous of me. And, you know, I wanted them to find someone that would meld well with them, that they could continue. I don't really know what the situation is there now. I know a lot's changed or whatever, but that's not my business. But yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. I learned a lot. It got me involved with the black metal scene and meeting people and getting me out there and getting me used to sort of playing live, because before that happened, I wouldn't have a clue how to like navigate the scene how to approach a label or whatever, like a lot of what not to do as well. But
Sure.
I learned a lot from doing it. I also grew confident from it as well, like by fronting a band and knowing that I could, evoke a good reaction from a crowd and stuff like that. It gave me a boost, man. And I was a little apprehensive maybe to kind of take that away from myself and step out as a vocalist guitarist, because I certainly wasn't the most confident guitar player at that time. But I always wanted to write songs, and I kept doing it for so many years because I believed in myself. Nobody else really gave me much of a push with it, but I felt that, the stuff that myself, Matt and James doing together and the kind of stuff we were working on was good quality, and I felt, really emotionally involved in it, behind it, and my heart's of hearts, like it's just what I wanted to do. So I have no regrets about making that decision to focus entirely on that. And it ended up leading me to a good place, and now I'm lead guitarist on Winterfylleth, which is absolutely weird to me. When I first heard of Winterfylleth, I didn't even play guitar.
Sure.
That's super cool development, man. You never plan for these things in life, but I just feel like it demonstrates to me, if you just listen to your gut, trust it, it'll lead you to the not the right place, but to a place which is suitable for you. You shouldn't be doing things you don't want to do. If you feel like you're done with something, then you're done. It would be a worse thing to do to have continued doing something that I had kind of lost the heart for. So, but yeah, they were good years, man, and they taught me a lot. So, I don't regret anything.
Well, listen, the main takeaway from that I wanted to come to was the fact that, it's showcasing the results of what happens when you follow your gut,
Sure.
and your gut instinct. Because to give some context as well, and I might be a little bit off on this, but at least this is my impression of it, okay? So at the time, obviously, Necronautical's already got 2 albums out. And obviously with Ethereal at the time, that seems like an even more, like they actually seemed like a much more sort of they seem to have more engagement, if you catch my drift, at that time.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that's something I was alluding to. Like when we started Necro, I didn't understand that side of things. I just wanted to do the songs, and I suppose maybe my self-confidence was low, so I didn't really have much desire to push much further. But like I wasn't, if there was a black metal scene, I wasn't engaged with it. I didn't necessarily set out to meet other black metal fans at that time. I was just doing it for me, which is the perfect motivation to make music. But I just had no clue or interest in doing anything business-wise, and they had found their feet in the scene. And it wasn't why I joined, but like through working with them, I sort of was like, oh, this is here, and
yeah,
it kind of became a part of things. Anyway, sorry, man, I totally cut you off.
And well, the reason why that's cool. The reason why I mentioned that is because obviously we're talking about now late 2018, early 2019. I believe you performed your very last show with Ethereal in January 2019, if I'm correct. And the reason why I remember this is because we played that show with you.
Yeah, that was it.
At the Rebellion in Manchester. That's right. And the thing of it was, man, I can appreciate what your sort of thought pattern of going through that. That it's yes, this band might be more well known, this and that, but my heart's not in it, and I would rather go and focus on my own music. Right, which obviously now that has worked out very well for you down the line, but I can relate to this, and I want people who might be in similar situations, because it's not all just about being in a band. This can be any situation in life. It could be a career, it could be a relationship, whatever. There's many a times where things seem like your gut instinct tells you you're not really into that, you want to move on, but then you look at the logistics and it's always like, oh yeah, I should maybe stick to this for a sake of safety, if you will. Another thing is as well, like I felt like this, I felt somewhat similarly when I was the lead vocalist of Master Skull.
Oh yeah.
That was a band that I was with for 5 years in the end. And they are a great band, don't get me wrong, but I think very similar to yourself due to the lack of creative control and just the fact that it wasn't my own conceived child. I never connected with it, and I feel like there's almost like there's somehow like an element of imposter syndrome that occurs when you're in that situation.
Yeah,
where
like that.
you know, yeah, exactly, and it's like you want it to grow still, of course, but it's like, what are your reasons for it? And I feel like that internal reasoning is hard to find if you're, especially if it's someone like me and yourself who are so fucking like hard-headed and just have to do things their own way, you know. It's like, you know,
but it's that authenticity, you know, like
if you're not feeling that, and if it doesn't feel like it's something that relates to you, you know, like it could be the biggest band in the world. You know, but if it's not of your own, then it's just not as rewarding, is it? You know, and I think this is a telltale sign of like always follow your gut in
whatever
that you do.
Whether there's any credence to it or not, I also kind of think that if people are doing that, if musicians are doing that, I think that will lead to bad artwork, you know, like bad music.
For sure.
I think you can tell when a band member or even an entire band like is not like behind what they're doing anymore. Like you see it sometimes. I'm not going to give examples, but you know, some bands like play on too long in their careers, and it's kind of sad to see their phone it in, you know. And I don't think it's possible to make music that will truly connect with an audience if the artist isn't connected to it, you know. But when we did the first Ethereal album, like I was very much behind it. I was quite excited to be in the band, and yeah, it was new for me, like being a vocalist or whatever. You mentioned creative control. I don't necessarily need like control as such, even though like I do a lot in Necro, and I'm glad to have the chance to do that. It's more just that I need to feel that I am expressing myself. And in Ethereal, there's a lot of strong personalities that wanted, you know, mine being one of them, wanted to steer things a certain way, and everything was in contradiction, and nobody wanted to listen to each other. And suddenly I started to feel like, you know, I'd be wanting to put my heart and soul into like one thing, and then someone would be saying, no, I want it to be like this, and you should do this. And you know, if I'm going to front a band or be in a band, I want to feel like
you own a part of it.
Yeah, or even just that I'm expressing part of myself too. And I began to feel like I wasn't being myself in that band at all. And actually, maybe even that I was trying to be someone else to some small degree, you know, to try to fit some sort of mold what would be appropriate. And once I started to notice that happening, I was just like, no, this isn't the way it's going to go. And it wouldn't have mattered if anything I did wasn't as successful after that. You know, this whole idea of success in black metal is kind of a dumb thing anyway, you know. Nobody does this to pay the bills, really, you know.
No, not really.
So see, that doesn't matter, you know. It takes a lot, as you know, to be in a band or to be creative. A lot behind the scenes to even get the kind of payoff, and you have to enjoy all of it, or you're just not going to do it. You'll drop out, you know. You have to, if you're going to commit a lot of free time to doing something, you have to be passionate about it. You have to be driven by what's inside you wanting to come out, you know. So I didn't really have that there, but I do have it in Necro, obviously, and I do actually have it in Winterfylleth, strangely. I mean, obviously that's a pre-existing band. I'm in a new role there, but you know, from day one, I mean, I didn't have to say it, but I was pleased. You know, Chris was like, "Yeah, we want to work with you on writing songs," and you know, they straight away asked my opinion on things, like, you know, what's going to be in the set list or whatever. I really was made to feel a part of things, and yeah, we started writing a couple of new tracks now. And yeah, straight away, I'm there with Chris, contributing ideas. He's listening, we're playing with each other, and it's like, okay, cool. So, you know, now I've got a new creative outlet for some of my music, and that's quite exciting to me. You know, it doesn't all go in Necro, of course, and I write a lot of stuff, and it's an interesting news I mentioned, but I do feel like that's a place where, you know, certainly it's a band that's kind of stylistically been defined by its, you know, pre-existing members, which is fine, but it's nice to be sort of included, and they seem to be, you know, curious to hear what my involvement is, how that's going to sort of steer the sound of things, is the impression I'm getting. So we've got no idea, but we just started to collaborate, and I'm excited about that. You know, I don't feel like I'm kind of just playing someone else's songs, and you know, I feel a part of things. So
yeah, that's good. You always want it to feel like it's a part of what you're doing yourself, you know, and that you're sort of living through the experience, and that you want to feel like you're invited to do that, rather, and then be yourself and be authentic, rather than, okay, this is what you're doing, kind of a thing. So I wanted to ask you as well. We keep coming back to one word here, which, funnily enough, was actually something I wanted to ask you about anyway. But how do you define success, particularly in the context of being a black metal musician?
Okay. Oh, what a question. Success. Man, like, okay, well, it's certainly not what, like, you know, when we said the word success in this conversation, you know, up until now, we've kind of been referring to, like, you know, oh, Ethereal was successful. So we were doing bigger shows, we had the label, with touring or whatever. I really don't think that should be the end game in music. I mean, it's cool if that stuff happens, but a lot of the bands out there that end up like just chasing those things and wanting to climb a lineup or whatever, like they end up not doing so because they are forgetting to, you know, do the fundamental work, which is write good songs and be good performers. So I digress, but actually I think for me, I feel the most kind of satisfied from it when I have like a complete record, a complete show where I just feel like, not that everything went perfect, but just where I felt like, you know, I got my vibe from it. It's really hard to say. It's like a connection I have either with the music on the album, which I always achieve in the end, by the way, because I don't release the album until I have that satisfaction, you know.
Sure.
The live show is a bit different because you know, can't control it. But if I just feel like whatever wanted to come out, whatever I wanted to express, or, you know, that we collectively wanted to express was achieved effectively, then I'm happy with that. You know, I can stand behind all the songs I made in Necronautical, certainly, and just be like, yeah, that says it. That's how I was at that time. And yeah, I wouldn't change them, you know. It's just it's feeling completely kind of satisfied by your artwork. It's kind of cathartic to me to make songs and sort of actualize these ideas. And yeah, for me, it's just feeling like, yeah, I really realized that I really did what I set out to do. And there it is, it exists. I almost feel like there's something gone there and I can move in a new direction. So yeah, it's just really being satisfied with the songs themselves and the experiences of performing them. Like, you know, those are really the transactions we're giving, in my opinion, is, you know, playing songs, recording songs, you know. So I just like feeling that it's gone over in the way that I intended, you know, and that other people connect with it as I would have wanted to, which is why it's satisfying. Like, even like, you know, I feel like yourself to be saying to me that they felt certain things about Slaying the Spirit, for example, which I agree with. I kind of feel like the show like that, like, it's like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. I just feel like I'm on the right track if I understand that I'm still kind of, you know, speaking through the artwork, I suppose. That is success to me. And obviously, like all the other great things, you know, album releases and press and touring and stuff, like, there's a really cool consequence of that. And, you know, it doesn't suck. But I really think, you know, something I had to sort of teach myself as the years have gone on is that, like, if you lean too much on needing that to validate yourself, like needing a tours and needing to get on this festival or whatever, like, you're gonna drive yourself insane. Like, there's so much at play that, you know,
yeah.
If that side of things isn't where you want it to be, you know, don't kick yourself for that. A lot of the time, you'd be surprised how big these bands can be, and they still feel that they're not where they want to be, or they're not going what they deserve. You know, there is no deserving this. I think really the only thing that it's your duty to do as a musician or as an artist is just say what you want to say and remove all that notion of success from your artwork. You know, don't make artwork to try and get those things. That's exactly the wrong way to do it. Just do what you stand behind, you know, get behind it and do it with conviction. And then you will get what you deserve, you know? it might
Absolutely,
be shit.
man.
It might be great, but like, you know, at least then you can reflect on it and be like, you know, I did what I was supposed to do, and hell, even if nobody fucking liked it, then that doesn't matter. You made your contribution, because I think, you know, every artist or creative person, they have, I'm not even sure, like influences and aspirations or whatever, but they have something, I think, that cannot be spoken. I think we've even had this conversation before, man, me and you. I think you actually said it to me, and it made perfect sense to me. It was something like, you know, music is like a combination of all your influences, and then there's something else that you have that is almost can't be spoken. And that's what you need to find, man, as an artist, like that thing that is yours. And it doesn't matter, like, you know, if you have a style like Necronautical, it sounds like Emperor. It does. I love Emperor, you know, but I know it has something that comes from us that makes it not fucking Emperor clone. You know, I know it's there. So
we're just sharing riffs at the end of the day, as Don McDonald said.
Too right, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I think that is absolutely spot on. And this is, you know, this is exactly why I was saying earlier that I think that the more that you enjoy what you're doing, consequently, the crowd will start enjoying it too. But I think that is perhaps an even deeper fundamental aspect of what it's actually like to be a musician, because you want to do something that you enjoy, and not enjoy for the sake of, you know, because a lot of times people will create edgy and shocking stuff, which is all good, by the way. I'm all for that. But sometimes they do it just for the sake of that, and that they say that they enjoy it because they enjoy the reaction that it provokes, because they know that it's going to offend people, right? That, to me, even that approach isn't completely like hardcore crystal clear for the enjoyment of yourself. To me, enjoying something for yourself is having a song that every time you hear it, you never skip it. You're like, fuck yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's something that you want to hear for yourself. And to me, it's like that. First of all, you mentioned the word deserve a few times. I don't fucking believe in that word.
No,
the word deserve doesn't exist. You know, there's only earning stuff, not deserving them.
Yeah.
And I think that in the context of art, since integrity is such a big part of it, I think that the only way you earn anything is through being honest and earnest with yourself, but also by putting in the work.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that I wanted to also talk to you about, because I have seen how you work, and you mentioned to me about how you kind of approach these projects. Obviously, this is music that you like and enjoy performing and creating, and there's a whole process. It can be very enjoyable too, although of course stressful too. But that's always in the process of creating something that you can be proud of. One thing that I like about
that too, you know.
Exactly.
Shit gold in the morning. I fucking get at it every day.
Exactly. And one thing that I like about you is the fact that you actually pay a lot of attention to work ethic. And this is something that I want to get into, and sort of your approach to creating music, because of how you treat it. Because obviously it's still art at the end of the day, but if you want to make this motherfucker manifest and come into life, you need to put in the work, and you need a work ethic to do it. And I just wanted to get a little bit more of your side to that, and how you approach such a thing, and how you stay ahead of time with the schedules and with all the recordings and everything like that. Because I do understand that you pretty much take most of the responsibility for the actual recording and pretty much a lot of the stuff yourself, correct?
Yeah, that's true. It's always kind of worked that way. Certainly with Necronautical, but even in Winterfylleth, they kind of work that way. Not that I do it, but they work in a similar way. There's demos made, and Necronautical kind of started because I was interested in home recording and that kind of thing. I actually just wanted to make music on my own at first. And I did that for a few sort of releases that I won't mention, but I wanted just to kind of, I don't know, Devin Townsend it, you know, just do everything. Sure. And yeah, so I started crafting songs that way, but I suppose it was round about in my early 20s when, you know, it's really time to kind of get a career or whatever. I really just started to admitting to myself that, you know, even though everyone would tell you it's not a good idea, and I knew that there'd be no money to be made or whatever, I just wanted to really push at music, not to see if it would get me anywhere. I just wanted to do you know, kind of what I said was success to me earlier. I just wanted to feel like I got something out. I felt like there was something in me that I could kind of manifest through making songs. And this is coming off the back of being a drummer for many years, which is an amazing instrument, but not particularly as expressive as, like as creatively kind of formidable as playing guitar or keys is, whatever. So I had a little bit of background in other instruments. So once I left university, I thought, no, fuck it. You know, I bought Pro Tools with my last student loan payment. You know, I finished my assignments early, took that money, bought Pro Tools and went home. And got started really like unable to play guitar, unable to record or whatever, but I just thought this is what I want to do. And I already felt I was too old to do it at that age because I was like 22 and I knew like a load of guitarists that were shit hot and I sucked, you know. But I wanted to do it and I really just thought like the only way you're going to be able to make anything is if you just get at this and just work harder than everybody else. And I've just really kind of kept that going. So there's no particular routine about it, and I suppose because I feel passionate about it, it's not that hard to force me to do it. But I've always said that everything in my life is to get to music. Like I want to get there every day, you know. Okay, so I get up early, I eat my food, I go to work, you know, I go to the gym, whatever. Like I get through all that, and I want to get to the music. Like that's my goal at the end of the day. Like, you know, if I can get my 2 hours with my song or whatever, like that's what I want. So I've always had that in me every day, you know. It's always been a consideration that I want to make time for that. You know, for me, it's totally satisfying to be able to make songs. That's why I wanted to get Pro Tools and begin this. Like just the thoughts of being able to, you know, just layer up sounds and experiment and like try things and express like using a bunch of instruments without limits. It was so exciting to me, man. Like once I learned like what was possible, I was just like, wow, like I really want to do that. And I never felt that way about anything in my life. I mean, as a music fan, but you know, people always say, oh, what do you want to do? I never really knew or cared, but like once I figured that you can make like sonic worlds, like endless possibilities and like quite inexpensively as well, I was just like, yeah, man, that's what I'm going to do for fun. And I did, you know, I just really went at it. And I suppose, yeah, I do have a strong work ethic with it. I don't like force myself to do it, but like, I don't know, like you are, you know, at that age, I was also really into bodybuilding. That requires going at it all the time, even when you don't want to, right? That mindset really applies to anything you want to succeed in. And yeah, so if I was like, I don't know, long shift or whatever, not really going anywhere, 23 years old, tired, I'd be like, no, I don't lie on the sofa, man. Like, don't waste your time. Like, get up there and play. And I just did, and it just became a part of what I do. And well, it's been over 10 years now, and I just haven't stopped doing it, you know. And as soon as I finish one album, like I want to get to the next one. I can't wait to write new songs and see what's going to happen. But yeah, like the whole process, it never starts and ends. You know what I mean? It's never like, okay, we're going to start an album now. It's just like there are ideas kicking around. And same with the other guys as well. Like they are huge contributors. I shouldn't understate that, man. You know, sometimes a riff doesn't make one album and it comes to life years later. You know, it manifests a song. Then you're like, I like to play my guitar. Sometimes I still have drumming ideas and that inspires a riff or whatever. It's on my head, and whatever it is that I want to get out of me, it's still in there a lot of the time, you know. And I pick up my guitar to relax, and when I find something cool, like, you know, I make a little demo and I see where it takes me. And sometimes it's nothing, sometimes it's something I want to go with, but it is just a constant, rather than being like, I have to do this work, you know, to get results. It's just like I made it part of my life. I know it's what I want to do. It satisfies a need in me that nothing else can, to be able to pick up instruments and express and perform. Like I don't feel like I can get that through anything else. Like that is it for me. So I'm going for that. You know, I'm chasing the dragon with that, man. You know, I just want to do it. You know, I don't know how else to express it. So that's why I put the time in. It's because it's how I want to spend my time. Like, you know, I used to like not go on like nights out or whatever, like make excuses, just you know, just so I could like sit home and just carry on making the song. You know, if you ever spoke to James and Necronautical, he'd tell you we used to live together, man. We were like 25 and we were doing the Jones at Night album. I used to walk past my room, he'd come in like, you're still awake because you knew I had work at like 6 a.m. I stayed up all night, headphones on, making the insurance tonight. Like, I wasn't sleeping, man. You know, I had a really busy job at that time. Really, nothing was going to stop me, because for me, that was the reason I was going to work. That was the reason I was doing 12-hour days, you know, so I could afford to make this happen. So I could afford the next thing. It was my motivation for everything. So, you know, like, I was never going to let, like, all this, like, stuff we have to do in society, and it is exhausting, man. I feel it, you know. I feel it now. The grind is brutal. It's hard to do something else in your life, man. But I was always like, no, like, I'm not doing all that shit, working, stressing, fucking paying the bills for nothing. All that's going to get me to music. So, yeah, that's the bottom line. Everything in my life is to get to music. So that's it.
Well, that's fucking beautiful, man. This is, you know how much I relate to this. This is, you know, and it's a great testament to the whole ethos of discipline, or shall I say habits, always outweigh motivation. Always. Because you made a habit of doing that, and that's where you got your results. I mean, Russ, to be honest with you, I think this was 2 years ago when, maybe within a few months of the pandemic happening. Remember, we were one time hanging out in Sheffield, and you said something to me then which really stuck with me, actually. I mean, I know we've got quite a few of those back and forth, but
yeah, sure.
You said to me, you were talking about how you used to have this whole thing of your work ethic back in university, that you would always do things in time to make sure that they were done, and then you know, you didn't have to stress when it came to the actual assignments or whatever it was.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And you kind of, the way I took this from you was that you also had a similar approach when it came to the music and things like that. And to me, this was somewhat eye-opening, because we always look at this genre and this music as it's supposed to be rebellious against everything. So that means it has to be the opposite of everything else, right? So, and that's kind of like being the opposite of being productive, and then being like, it's a really crazy thing to try and explain, because, you know, like so many black metal people, and I'm not trying to sound insulting here, but in context, they're kind of losers, right? And this is not everyone, of course, but a lot of people can be like that. And the reason why I even say that is because I feel like maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe that a part of me was that too, which is not a good thing. But you're thinking that, okay, I'm going to rebel against everything, so then that rebellion translates into being the opposite of everything. It's like, you don't want to work. You don't want to do this. You don't want to. You look at everyone who goes to the gym as someone who's egotistical and just self-worshipping assholes, you know, and you completely miss the point of what that is actually going to do if you did that. And these kind of thought processes, and, you know.
Yeah, it's true. You always go into alignment with some things. You know, you can't be in opposition to everything. However, that doesn't mean that everybody in the black metal scene should be into the same shit. It's just, you're going to find parallels in your life, and it's impossible to be at odds with everything, you know. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to. It's a hard thing to try and even articulate, you know. But I'm hoping that there's someone out there who will understand what I'm actually trying to say, you know. But it's that when you said to me that you use that same kind of work ethic to build this music thing for yourself, for me it was almost like, oh, well, I thought music was, you know, it's just an inspiration thing that just comes to you when it wants to come to you, and all this and that. But then it's like, no, hang on. Look at how people become, quote unquote, successful at things, and how people use competition, and how people improve themselves, how people get better is by habits, is by putting in the work, is by making an effort, just building an idea. See, ideas, Russ, I've come to the conclusion that ideas on their own mean fuck all. They mean nothing.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got an idea that you're never going to use, yet you build that idea over and over and over, that's not going to mean anything. Why? Because an idea can never, first of all, stay the same, and only will it contribute to your growth once you've expressed it. because then you can reflect on the idea, not only yourself but also other people. You can reflect on an idea, you can see how it made you feel to even express it, and this can be in the context of music or even like something that you want to say. You might have like a sentence in your head for 2 years that you think this is going to be great, but then you say it and then you're like, "Ooh, that kind of sounded a bit stupid."
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, it's kind of like that, so that's why I'm so much more, I'm all for nourishing ideas, but only as long as it's going to be expressed. And that's why I'm saying that you need work ethic, you need effort to make these things manifest and actually come into life. And that's the point that I'm trying to get across, which I feel like is actually missing in a lot of artists today. They just expect to sit there and for things to happen for them, and that's just not the way it goes.
Yeah, that's not true. I mean, there's a little bit of a shard of truth in it. For example, like I say, I'm very devoted to getting my time with music. I want to make sure I always have that space in my life to to have some time alone, I suppose, and time with my instruments and time to sort of develop ideas. But sometimes I do that, the consequence of my work ethic, and nothing's really coming. And that can be frustrating, but then I just like, no, it's just practice, it's fine. Like, so there are like times when inspiration feels a bit more there and times when it's not very present, but I still think it's worth putting the time in anyway, because hell, I mean, you can still practice, you can still have fun with it. It is, I enjoy playing with whatever. So you can't beat yourself up if ideas aren't coming. And I don't, there is a part of me that thinks like, yeah, you want to make an album every 2 years, you want to keep that rolling, but the greater part of me says, but you don't want to make a bad album because of that, So
see, the way I look at this, the way I look at this is, let's look at inspiration as rain, right? It gets cloudy and then it rains and then water is collected. So to me, the fact that you put time to this is the equivalent of going out and holding a bucket. All right?
Yeah, sure.
It might not always be raining, but when it does, your bucket's going to get filled with water. So it's up to you how much time you want to spend holding the bucket out there for the rain to come.
That's so true. And I'm all about holding that bucket, man. That's such a good analogy. Yeah. You make really good analogies, by the way. I
just made that one on the spot. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, wow. Clearly a natural. No, it's good. You're absolutely right, yeah. So yeah, I've been holding my bucket for quite a lot of hours these last 10 years, man. For sure.
Absolutely. That's awesome. You when we were talking about this before, I think we were having a conversation in passing some time ago, and I think when you're having conversations at parties, it's a miracle if you remember them. I tend to remember most of them, but sometimes a few details might get, kind of slid off, which I'm sure you understand. Sure. But we were, I think we were in Leeds or something, and you were talking about, so I think it was, I can't tell if this was your first record or the second one, but did you mention something about how each song was recorded at like a specific time or something to do with the cycles of the moon or something like that, if I remember correctly? Endurance, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like, the times of like recording weren't like correlated to that, but that album, like, once we have like a few sort of like songs together, like we started to like think like, what's the sort of angle here? And we wanted to talk about, to put it broadly on that record, like the cosmic scale, and the kind of feeling, spiritual feeling someone can get from that. Just understanding like your place in the very vast universe that through all our intellect we do not understand, and kind of that feeling of insignificance that someone can get from that, but how that can be quite a freeing kind of thing or whatever. But also like we were, in doing that, just kind of examining a lot like about like actual kind of like physical concepts in space, and like these ideas of like angular momentum. And because we knew that we were doing that, there were like little subtle things in the songs that no listener would pick up on. It was just more like stuff for us, like the way the time signatures like add up like mathematically through the album, like they go in like an orbit, like even if they like lose a beat here and there, like by the time like the song has rolled on, like it always like comes back to where it would have in So if you listen to the song The Endurance Ignite, for example, which is all a lot of it's in 7, some of it's in 5, whatever, like it doesn't really matter, it's music geekery. But if you would start that song at the beginning and nod your head where the beat is, all through the song your head to be in a different place, but by the time you get to the last beat, you will come back to where it started. It's like little things like that.
What you're saying.
Yeah, it actually doesn't sound like sugar, but is it that concept applied in a different way, like through along sense, and those kind of like reflecting like the journeys of these entities and bodies in space that go on these like weird, like tumultuous, like gravitational journeys, but they all sort of repeat. And God, man, it was a long time ago, but like, yeah, there's like a secret 3-part song in that album, which I'll tell you was like tracks 1, 4, and 3. 1, 4, and 7. We call it the Lunar Triumvirate. Yeah, those songs all go together in their own way. But it was a long time ago now, man, but like we really like put like all these like weird, like sort of secret depths in that record and other records that like, it's more just for our gratification really, but like things that happen in like the kind of maths of music and the structure of music, like even like how one will do certain riffs and where those songs are placed in the album, like in our minds, like that is having an effect on the broader experience of the album. Yeah, we were thinking a hell of a lot of that around about the time we were doing that album, and really trying to like make the entire album feel like this kind of intergalactic journey.
Sure.
like a monkey getting blasted into space.
That's pretty fucking cool. I mean, how do you even come up with that idea? And how do you, like, there's one thing that is there, but how do you even pull off something like that? Do you, like, whilst you're writing the song, do you, like, keep nodding your head and then see, like, where it lands? Or is it by accident? Or how do you even go about something like that? It's a pretty fascinating idea. And I feel like that needs to be talked about more, that even exists.
Once you got your head around it, it's kind of basic maths. Like, okay, like I've lost this many beats through this portion of the song, so I'm saving these for later. Like, okay, so I need to make these back in the next riff. It wasn't like the crux of doing it, although it did make writing that song particularly like kind of interesting, because I was confined by, you know, this plan of doing this. It's not so much that we go in like thinking we're going to do these things, but like generally, like as the ideas become more developed, we'll start talking, like particularly myself and Matt, the bass guitarist, who is more into the academic side of the kind of conceptual side of the, he's a studious guy and he researches as well, and he sort of digs up all these cool concepts like as the song's being, and I'm like, oh, like what do you think about this? Like, that's interesting. And I start to like feel that relates to a certain piece of music that I've been working on or whatever. And yeah, with the endurance, when you start to talk about like all these sort of angular momentum, kind of gravitational principles that exist, it's kind of like the interdependence between like chaotic orbits, like how they influence each other, and how like you know, that physically pulls things around in space, and how that influences everything. You know, that everything is interdependent. You know, but that's interesting. You know, like how that works. Like, and you start talking about this like mathematical and scientific stuff, and like, well, there are maths in music, so wouldn't it be interesting if like you went through all this chaos only to find yourself back at point one? You know, and that can be done musically. You know, you can, you know, well, just little things. You can end track one. You can begin track one with the end of the last track. You know, so it cycles around. We did that on Apotheosis. What has been before will be again. If you play the end of the endless spiral backwards, it's the beginning of all its vanity. It's a total, all these little things, man. No one knows them because I never say them until now. But it's there. It's part of our own gratification and our own sort of. It's fun to know that it's there, man. What's an example there? A controversial figure now with J.K. Rowling, like Harry Potter. I'm not even a Harry Potter fan, but I remember reading an interview with her many years ago, and she said, for her as a reader, she wanted to feel like the authors that she liked. She wanted to feel that they knew more than she did reading the book, and so she said because of that, when she was developing this whole world for the Harry Potter story, that she had all this unused information. So like she created like the full yearbook of like everybody that was in Hogwarts, everyone. She created this world, and like Loisa didn't make the book, but she made the world anyway. You know, right. to have this kind of background information. You know, she was working on all this stuff that didn't need to be there, but she had a full kind of map of this world, and I think Tolkien had the same thing. And well, we in Necronautical were fans of like the fantasy genre and like that kind of thing, and it's just kind of like a little sort of nod to that. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we knew a little more than the listener? You know, if there were depths. Like, honestly, you'd never figure it out if I didn't say it. It doesn't even matter. That's not the point. It's more just kind of the joy in doing these things and just getting that little bit of extra in there that makes it special. You know, it's like we know it's there. You know, and we like to think that there's some kind of a credence to it. Like somehow it ties the album together, ties the music to the concept. You know, even if it doesn't in any sort of tangible way, it kind of makes us feel like every aspect is bent towards the same vision.
Well,
so
it's
I'm always trying to find ways to do things that are, you know, fun and interesting and serve what we're doing, rather than just putting a sound in for the sake of it, you know, just because it would sound cool. It's like, okay, it sounds cool, but also like, did you notice that like this is this, and like all kinds of stuff, man. It's all there in Necronautical.
Yeah, well, I think that's really fucking cool, man. I think what it is maybe perhaps I feel like it's a part of the identity, you know, because being in a band, you know, and having your own position in that band, and like you and I were talking earlier, the whole thing of having the creative control, that becomes a very big part of your identity in a way, I feel. And I feel like having these little secrets and things like that, where obviously you've just shared it with us now, which I do appreciate. I'm sure everyone else will do as well. But I think these sort of ideas and thoughts, they're very much like tentacles that attach to this core idea of what it is to be a part of something like this. Very cool example about Jackie Rollins as well. I had no idea about that. It doesn't surprise me, but I think that's actually a very cool touch, to be honest with you. And it is, in a way, to the point of the identity. It's like you're creating your own world through art, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's more to it almost than what is presented through the album.
Yeah.
Or through the live show. I mean, like, you know, we've alluded to like how much time I spend like working these songs. Like, there's an aspect of this music that never ends up there in the CD. Like, you know, this is like a lot of my life and times, and like sometimes something comes to, you know, but it could even be something that I think is funny, man. Like that we think is funny, like, you know, they're just like, they make their way in there, and like we know they're there, you know, that's enough. It's cool. Yeah. It feeds that feeling of satisfaction that I thought about before, that feeling of success, the feeling that I really put everything that should be there into it, you know, like there are things like when I hear those songs, like maybe songs of Apotheosis or whatever, that's just like, well, I know what that is, and that takes me back to that time. And to me, these are parts of my life, man, periods of my life. And same with the guys, you know, and yeah, it's just interesting. Also, it's another like cool thing of being able to like record at home, make demos. Like, you can hang on to like what you've done. Like, sometimes I've done a demo vocal and it was just the one, and I have that recording, so it just ends up like, well, fuck it, we'll put it in the album. You know, like on the last album, Occultic Static, track 2 and Slain. James.
Track 2 is really fucking good, by the way. I really like that one.
And fucking James did 2 solos on that song before both the choruses in it. And I remember it was one of the first things he came on, like early days when we were writing that album, like he sort of came over to like see what was going on. And it was like Christmas Eve. I was just about to go home and see my family. He came in and I was just like, I want to put a solo here. We just like jam a solo. And he did, just sort of shredded, whatever. And yeah, we sort of progressed the album, whatever, and that solo was still there, like kicking on my files. And then it came to completing that song, like Leeds is one of the last things we do. I was like, hey, you know, like you did this. And we put it in. I was like, yeah, that solo's still looking good. Let's just use it, whatever. And then and then we went to do the second solo, and we got that down, happy with it. And I kind of like looked at my calendar. I was like, oh shit, it's Christmas Eve again. Isn't that weird that you did these 2 solos on this song like exactly a year apart? It wasn't planned.
Oh, interesting.
But you know, obviously, you remember it being Christmas Eve. But like, I was just like, it didn't even occur to me. But like, yeah.
No, but that is fucking
There's a whole year of experience between James's 2 solos in that song.
No, but listen, there's something really weird to that. I know we fucking talked about this before, because I think, you know, this comes back to the whole thing of like time is linear. Time is goes in a circle rather than working in a linear fashion. Like however way it is designed, it doesn't work in one line. That's why I think it's got more to do with the position of the Earth, maybe compared to the sun. And this might sound ridiculous, but to that point that you just made, remember, back in January 2020, we played a show together at the Fenton in Leeds, where of all of the shows that have ever happened, your dad and your uncle, I believe, ended up coming to that show, and that never happened.
All of my uncles, my dad and all of his brothers, that.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then January this year, out of nowhere, like you guys and us in like a very similar positioning, with you guys headlining, us main support, and a few other bands, exactly at the same venue, the Fenton in Leeds, same month, I think only like really 4 days apart from what it was 2 years ago. Right. And then the same thing again, where your dad and all of your uncles ended up coming to the show again. Like, how fucking weird. How do you explain something like that? None of us planned this to happen.
It was just completely incidental.
Yeah. So there's something going on there. I've noticed too many patterns like this throughout life. Like, for example, for Trivex, December always seems to be like a really crazy month. Like the first 2 weeks of December, that we've always got something happening, and that's actually like the band was conceived on the 4th of December 2011 in the UK, at least the UK version of the band, where Matt and I and the other two older members at the time met. It was on that date, so there's always something happening around that time. It's something. It's very interesting, which I find fascinating. And like I said,
maybe some credence to it. That kind of linear timeline as we know it. Like that's a human construct, but like the kind of sort of cosmic order of it all, and whatever everything I was talking about on the endurance, right? Like that whole greater sort of cycle that's happening up there with everything. Like that's not a human construct, and I don't like strictly like believe in something like horoscopes or shit like that. But I'm kind of a skeptic with like a lot of esoteric stuff. Although I do think there's like a lot that's palpable that's in it. Like especially when you talk about like how you sort of feel throughout the year and how you behave throughout the year in relation to what's going on. Like with the seasons, the weather, and all that kind of thing. That's all in a cycle up there, man. And of course, like we respond to everything that's around us. So I certainly think there's some credence based around when you're born, what time of year it is, like how you emotionally respond to that. And I do find there are some things in my life as well that seem to happen at certain times, and musically too,
Yeah, for sure.
But often Necro, we write in the winter, we release in the summer. It's always happened that way. All albums came out in the summer, and we always wrote them in the winter.
That's cool.
Always.
All right. Of course, that makes sense. I never even clocked that before, but you are right. Yeah, of course.
It's just how it goes, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did just have Esther Segara, who's worked with both of us actually on the podcast 2 episodes ago.
I listened to half of it, and she's a great person, man. Yeah. It was cool to hear that.
The reason why I mentioned is because we talked exactly about that, and how astrology and things like that affect the cycles of the world. But just whilst we're here as well, I do want to go back a few steps and just touch on one thing.
Sure.
Where we were talking about how doing this music and creating this whole thing is like we're creating our own world. And you said something that I think is very valid, and it's that you said that not everything is on the CD that you can buy, and I'm fully with that. To me, it's like, for example, like buying a vinyl, which I think if you want to get an album and fully experience it, a vinyl is your best bet. Like no question about that. Everyone knows that, and there's not many ways you can argue with this. It is the superior format that exists currently, at least. I don't know, but to me, that's still not everything. What I feel a vinyl does is, let's say, there exists a realm in the cosmic web where it belongs to the band, where the band exists, and the band is a world of its own, and that is the connections between everyone involved, that is the imagination of everyone involved, and all the songs, all the energy that's projected during the live performances, everything. And I feel that the bands exist in a realm like that somewhere. And to me, buying a band's album or buying their merch is somehow a key of getting closer to that realm as someone who is on the outside. And that's how I look at it, you know. And to me, like, I don't want people buying my fucking LP just because, you know, like some people, especially like if you are like a local band to them or whatever, they'll look at it and they'll be like, it's from almost from a perspective of pity, like, oh yeah, the up and coming bands, let's support them. I don't want your fucking pity. I don't want you supporting my album because you think you should support it. I want you to support it because it adds something to your life and that you want it and you genuinely care for it. And that's the kind of approach that I have. Obviously, all support is welcome, but what I mean is the mindset.
That £20 can add something to your life. So. Well, no, I get what you mean. For sure, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's a thing of you want to be a part of that, you know, and this is obviously where I think a band like Watain has done great, where it's you really feel that there is something out there that almost belongs to them and has their name on it somewhere in the cosmic web that you can somehow get closer to. And I feel like as bands and musicians, we somehow, it's not something you can force, but we have the capability of creating something like this, you know, and all of these things that which we mentioned, it's sort of like it all plays into that same realm. It's almost like a point of focus that you can somehow connect with.
Sure, well, I think a good example of that, and I think I've always been kind of inclined to enjoy music that is that way. I don't know how to express it, like kind of like, you know, upon discovering it for the first time that this is something that, well, you enjoy, but there's going to reward your kind of commitment to it and multiple listens and getting more involved, something that draws you in. So it's not all there like on the surface level, like a lot of modern pop music is, like very disposable. It's on the radio, you enjoy it, blah blah blah, no depth, no nothing. You know, I like stuff that I feel there's more to. That, you know, I'm not like a music listener like some metal fans are. That, like, they know everything, they know every band and the X and Y, they're encyclopedic. I'm more like, I don't know a million bands, but like if I find something that I like, it doesn't have to be metal, like just any song that I connect with, like I really, you know, if I'm connected with something, I'll keep going back to it. If I felt something that's resonating with me, like I'm like songs, like there are times when I'm obsessed with them and I know them in and out, man. Like I can play the drum beats accurately on my steering wheel. I know all the words and everything. Like it seeps in, and it's yeah, the albums that I keep coming back to through my life are like the ones where I'm still discovering. It's not even necessarily like what's physically there, like in the sound or whatever. Like, you know, just still discovering feeling in it, you know. And a lot of albums that are classic and really stand the test of time, I think have that because they don't get old, you know. In the Night Side Eclipse, you know, Storm of the Light Spain, to name some black metal ones, or, you know, rock and roll, like Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, something like that. Like, you don't get tired of hearing them because there's something alive in that, you know, something that you can tune into again and take new from, you know. It's that to me is perfect music, man, you know.
I hear you, man.
It's not just about, like, you know, what the guitars are doing, what the drums are doing, or, you know.
No, it's almost like what the guitars and drums are doing and what the vocals are doing. It's almost like that's an excuse for something else to come through and to exist.
It's a vessel, man. And that's what I was getting at earlier when I was talking about standing behind what you're doing. Because if you don't stand behind what you're doing, then all you're doing is playing fucking riffs. Okay, then you might as well just give up, man. You know, you're not saying anything. And that's why this gets nowhere, man.
Your bucket is upside down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You're not using your bucket, man.
That's it. Yeah, man, that's it. So you quickly mentioned Night Side Eclipse there, and I wanted to ask you one question. You obviously played Incineration Festival in May this year, which I came to, by the way. I just didn't have the chance to meet you. I met everyone else from your band on that show except you. But obviously, you were playing with Winterfylleth at the same venue that Emperor was also headlining.
Yeah. And
obviously, I know that you run into those guys. And obviously, I know how much that band actually means to you.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe you already previously played with them. Was it in Inferno Festival 2018?
Yeah, for sure.
18 was it, or 19? I think around those years.
18. Yeah, 20.
Yeah. So what did that mean to you? To be obviously sharing the stage with them, but also actually get to spend some time with them backstage as well, because obviously they're a legendary band, and obviously everyone knows that, but I'm more talking about the personal connection with the band, which can be actually exempt from the size and the scale of the band also. But for yourself, getting the opportunity to kind of share that moment with Emperor, what was that like for you?
Well, firstly, you talk about the size and scale of the band. I mean, there's the real size and scale of a band, and then there's the size and scale of a band in your head, right? So when a band means a hell of a lot to you, they're everything. It doesn't matter if they're huge. But what Emperor has is both. They are as popular in black metal as they are important to me. It's almost reflected in that.
That was exactly the point I was trying to make. Yeah, you said it better. Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love that band, man. A lot of people do. The Nightside Eclipse was the first black metal album I heard, first one I purchased, and first time I listened to it, I didn't love it. It was just weird to me. I didn't know what I was expecting, but production or whatever. In fact, I was really young. I was maybe 14 or something. I bought it the same day. I bought In Nightside Eclipse and Dream Theater at the same time, same purchase. Okay.
Quite the contrast, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of I was a young drummer, whatever. I wanted to hear some technical stuff. Yeah, I like cool stuff too, like Slayer, whatever. But yeah, that's what I bought. And total contrast. That's the point. And I remember putting the Emperor CD on after a recommendation from a friend I had back then who was into black metal, kind of introduced me. And I was just like, what the hell is this, man? The sound, I couldn't distinguish what I was looking for, and what I was looking for was the fast drumming, to be impressed, which is what I wanted at that age, hear solos, drummers blasting, whatever. And I was like, okay, I can't really distinguish it, but I was reading the lyrics and the album, and I was like, this is dark, this is more further along a spectrum than any metal I've heard before. And anyway, so I kind of didn't know how I felt about it, but then what happened with me afterwards, the next few weeks, I kept trying to listen to other music that I was into, Slayer, Metallica, whatever, and it's still cool, but I kept thinking about In the Nightside Eclipse, oh, why is it so weird? No, I kept looking at it. I was really oddly fascinated with it. And then a few more listens, I was like, holy shit, I've just realized that I totally love this. And this is just something new. So everybody has that moment. If you're into black metal, that thing that draws you in where it clicks with you, and suddenly you realize that it's this is for me, this connects with me. It doesn't with everybody, it's not for everyone. So that was the album for me. So I love Emperor, and we're talking 2004-ish kind of time here. So whatever, they reformed, right? And they did the Wacken show back then. And so me and my friend Dave, we traveled to Wacken in Germany when I was 17 to watch, their now famous show that was billed at the time to be their last ever show.
Is it 2005 or 6 maybe?
6 it is, 2006.
Yeah.
So we went to that. Waited front row all day from 11 in the morning to when they came on stage at midnight. Real hardcore band stuff, which really, and it was amazing. And that band just means the world to me. So when Necro did Inferno, that was holy shit. I mean, obviously we were bottom billing, Emperor's top billing, so whatever. It's kind of incidental, but it was still wow, man, that's crazy. I remember thinking Emperor closed one night and Necro was first on the next day. I was there's a sleep in between, but we have to follow Emperor. But yeah, I met a couple of them when we were there. I mean, I'd seen Zyklon before, around that early 2000s era when I'd met Samoth and Trim and Tony Segden.
Oh, you've seen Zyklon before? Cool.
Yeah, I've seen Zyklon.
I used to be really big into Zyklon Aeon when I was still back in Iran, actually. I was 14, 15 years old? 15, I think, and I used to fucking love that. I remember playing the music video for Cyclone Aeon to one of our relatives' daughter who was only 8, 9 years old. I don't know why, but I was yeah, look at this cool music, and it was really fucking cool.
Yeah, they're great, man.
I love that album.
Really great.
Yeah.
Really
shame
great,
they're not around anymore.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, actually, it was that show how I first met Tony Segden, who now plays in Emperor, and obviously he's not. Yeah. He's certainly the guy in that band that I'm closer to, and when he's in UK, I'm in Norway. We'll hook up, and he's my friend. And that's cool. But I mean, the reason I first started talking to him was because I love Zyklon or whatever, and then so that was Inferno and spoke to him again, and he started introducing me to like some of the guys. But I don't really get starstruck by anyone, and I'm not really like that into like meeting artists particularly. I don't really seek it out. But if I ever were to be starstruck by anyone, it'd probably be Ishan Samoth, just because of that kind of teenage fandom I had. And I remember since Bono being like hungover as hell and wanting to leave our hotel room because Rob was snoring and it was pissing me off. And there's a gym downstairs. I was just going to go down there. I was really badly hungover there, man. Like, really been drinking too much. And so I got in the elevator, the lift outside the hotel room, feeling like total crap. And I opened the door, and no shit, like Ishan and Sam are in the lift just then. And I get in, I go, fuck, it's these guys. I mean, I'm a tall guy, but they were taller than I expected them to be. They're taller than me. And I was like, oh shit. And I was just like really hungover, like, and kind of starstruck. And then I realized it had been like 4 seconds. I was like looking at them. I went into myself, man. I didn't say shit. I didn't know who they were. Got out of the lift, whatever. I was like, I'm not going to speak to them in this condition. No, it's too awkward, man. So whatever. I didn't speak to them then. But yeah. So anyway, fast forward, Incineration Festival. Amazing that Winterfylleth played that. Cool to play that festival anyway. I've played it 3 times. I really like it, but like the Roundhouse, super special. I'm a big Opeth fan, as you probably know, and don't really care. I know you don't like that band, but they had a Roundhouse DVD that I was really fond of when I was around that age as well. Amazing DVD, their best era. So I always wanted to play the Roundhouse as well. So to be billed, at the Roundhouse with only 3 other bands playing, with Emperor, I was like, holy shit, like that's absolutely crazy. And it's the same for all the guys in Winterfylleth as well. They're Emperor fans, and they were at the London Astoria show in 2007 that I was also at, thus making the Wacken show not the last show ever, but still went. So yeah, it was just super special, and even though it's like a festival building, like there are only 4 bands there all sharing a backstage or whatever, and it really felt like as close as you can to being their support band. I mean, they don't really do gigs really, they're more just fests. But those guys, as well as the guys in Shooter and Bloodbath or whatever, was just like really down to earth level, no ego, humble, talking to everyone. And it was just such a special moment in my life, man. I mean, it was way beyond anything I would have ever hoped to happen to me. I was just like really glad that it did. And when the experience was happening, like, nothing about it like let me down, like, they weren't assholes or whatever. But the weirdest thing was, I remember you texted me actually, like, at some point in the festival, that Ishan was watching you. Playing, because like he'd streamed a bit of it. Like that was weird. What was weirder for me is like I'd sort of caught up with Tony or whatever before we played, but obviously never really spoken to Ishan, so before we went on I didn't. But as soon as I came off stage, like Ishan, like I just sort of walked past me, put his hand on my shoulder and went like, oh, great show, man. I was like, what? It just caught me off guard. So again, like, just like never starstruck, but like, yeah, I have a lot of admiration for him. And I just wanted to tell him that I was a big fan of something, but like me being me in this rare starstruck condition, I just went like, oh, like I really like you. It was awkward shit I could have said. But just let that hang like the sort of lead balloon that it was. But we had a good conversation, whatever, like nice guy.
I'm sure that they understand anyway. But,
sure. Yeah.
What do you, so say for example, you observe these people. I mean, I myself, I'm super observant of everyone and their behavior and body languages and things like that. I'm fascinated by that. But from your perspective, when you say that everyone backstage, because it was a really fucking cool lineup, especially on that stage, was awesome. I think pretty much from when you guys played, we stuck to that same venue because...
I didn't leave. No offense, just the billing. It was an amazing festival. I was in my element.
Yeah. It was fucking great, But this is what I was going to say. So when you're observing those people, you said that everyone was super humble, down to earth, talking to everyone. I mean, what do you learn when you're backstage at a place like that and you're sort of observing people and, what do you learn from their way of treating other people? And it's like, do you get a sense of like, oh, maybe I could be a little more like that? Or do you also get a sense of, oh, I would never want to be like that? When you're observing these kind of individuals and musicians who are, let's face it, they're pretty fucking successful. They've been around for like 20, 30 years, and they're, at least most of them are making a living doing this, which is a fucking miracle as it is. So how do you kind of, what's your sort of insight as to at least the social aspect of sort of observing some of these people behind the scenes.
Okay, well, I mean, you know, their success is born of great timeless music that connected with people, and that is, as I said before, like kind of the crux of everything. Like that's the most important thing in terms of like your longevity in music, whatever. But as an aside, it will serve you better not to be an asshole, you know, not to be a difficult person, and to work with the people that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not really a lesson that I've, you know, not to be like, yeah, great for me. Like, not really a lesson I've had to learn like so hard. Like, I just believe in trying to accommodate like the people around me and making sure that, you know, just that everybody involved in an event or whatever around you was like happy. But something that struck me like Emperor was like, they were like way late that day or something. Like the entire plan for the Roundhouse stage got like totally fucked up. They're really late arriving. It wasn't their fault. Like some of their gear didn't arrive. So sound check was really late. All the bands were supposed to have a sound check. Ended up being just us that had it. You know, so the whole plan for the day like sort of changed. But it's trying to sound like even though it was out of their control and everything, we're like speaking to everybody personally and just was so apologetic that this had happened and, you know, this was out of our hands, and really just like cared. You know, it wasn't vain. They didn't even have to say shit, but like they really cared about the performances of Shooter, Winterfylleth, and Bloodbath, you know, and they wanted to be sure that no one was thinking that this was them being like rock stars and divas and taking all the day. You know, that they were concerned about the smooth running of the day rather than just concerned about themselves. And well, you know, I mean, just in terms of like kind of the practicalities of existing in the music scene, and you know, you're gonna have to work with people. You're gonna have to work with promoters, venues, or whatever. You know, some people go the other way, and that can work for them. But like, generally speaking, like, you want to be making the best impression you can, you know, on all these people and all the people around you, because ultimately, like, anyone that's there, whether it's the sound technician or promoter or whatever, like, they're working for you that night, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they might be obviously primarily working for their money or whatever, but like, you know, they're helping you, you know? Keep them on side. Like, it's not, obviously, you know, you need your objectives, you need to get done what you're getting done, but like, yeah, I don't know. I would hope it would come easy to most people, but it's just important to be respectful and you know, understand that you're a part of something that's bigger than you, and if you want to continue doing that, then you know, you're best to consider the feelings of those around you and the people that are making an effort for you, because, well, they might not really have the incentive to do it again if you treat them like shit. Yeah.
I think that is super important. This is exactly why I asked you the question, because, for example, at least in their case, they could have very much been like, well, listen, I'm the vocalist of the headline band. You should be glad to even be sharing the stage with me. If you don't like the fact that we got here late, well, fuck you. We didn't decide to do this, but even if we wanted to, we could have been late. You know, this is like, your shit being late is not our problem. But they did not do that. Rather, like you said, you know, make. I like this. See, I like learning from stuff like this. You know, not that it's not something that goes through my head already, but I think this is very important. You know, for a lot of people to keep in mind, because you get people in bands who are in like tiny bands, and then they'll have the biggest biggest like rock star attitude, and it's like, motherfucker, you know, like, have you got like some kind of a small dick syndrome here, or like, what the fuck is your problem? You know, like, you have no comprehension of like what you're even like putting across of yourself. You think you're supposed to come off like cool or whatever, you know? It's like people come up to you and I don't know. It's a tricky thing.
It's true, and you know, that might even work for some people in terms of like appearing to be cool or whatever. But like, no doubt, if you put someone in your head that you feel fits that bill a bit more, because there's still successful people that do that. But you know, does that person have a revolving door of musicians in their band? You know, they come, you know, like these kinds of things. You know, like, no matter how successful you are, or whatever. Like, if you have like a crappy attitude and you don't like care about the people that are helping you, then these people are going to stop helping you, and that's not necessarily going to kill you off. And if it's not in your nature, then you shouldn't go against your nature. You know, you do you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's a level of difficulty, and turbulence that will come from behaving in that way frequently. You'll create more obstacles and, well, whatever. You do what you're supposed to do, but it's always a nice thing when you meet somebody that you admire and you have admired for a long time, and they don't let you down with the reality of them, just like being an arrogant piece of shit or not having time for you or time for anybody. And Emperor certainly didn't do that, and I didn't expect that they would have either,
Exactly, man. I think it's one of them things. They always say, obviously, never meet your heroes or whatever as well, and that can certainly be true. I have come to know that to be the case, but at the same time, it's like, because you could have a lifetime of really enjoying someone's music, right? Because that's almost a way of connecting with that musician. But then you can meet that person and they can be a total tit, and then that can almost take away the enjoyment of that music that you've obviously enjoyed and has defined you for many years, and I've kind of had this on a couple of instances, but obviously thankfully not many, and the interaction can reflect off of you and how you do things as well, obviously. Like if you go up to someone and act in an inappropriate manner and don't read the social cues and read the room, then yeah, you might be met with a bit of an asshole, but
met with an asshole. It should be met with an asshole.
Yes. Sorry. Well, that's it, man. I wanted to, just to like completely change the subject here as well. There's one more thing I wanted to cover here with you. Obviously, with Necronautical's last album, we had Slain in the Spirit, and obviously you've got the super powerful track Slain in the Spirit with the super Fields of the Nephilim clean guitars at the end of it and everything, and all the badass like harmony solos and things like that. But what does Slain in the Spirit actually mean? Because I think that a lot of people who might have listened to the album or seen the release, they might have taken this on face value, but from my understanding, it goes a lot deeper than that. So I was just wondering if you'd be keen to explain a little bit of the meaning of Slain in the Spirit.
Yeah, okay, sure. So we had the concept before the title. So we wanted to, based off the kind of music that was coming out, which compared to what we were doing before was, I don't know, like Apocalypse was kind of like driven by moods, like the album before, like every song had its own vibe. Whereas in Slain, like you always wanted to invert that and like have like go through a lot of feelings in one song, a lot of movements, and make kind of a turbulent record where like, well, it's not like, track 2 takes you one place and track 3 takes you somewhere else. It's kind of like you're going at rapid speed through a lot of feelings, and the title track has that, a lot of driving force, and then kind of spark the atmospheric stuff, whatever. We've got a lot going on in a short space. And so we thought, wouldn't it be cool to kind of equate the concept to this album to kind of like out-of-body experiences, like psychedelic experiences or dreams or nightmares, where you're in a kind of, it could be anything, but everyone who's kind of spiritually awake has had these kind of feelings when you're in a different kind of realm, be it dreaming or hallucinations or like, these things like, they can seem real, but they're kind of tricks in your mind. So we kind of wanted to encapsulate like that kind of feeling in the music. So we started to look at altered states of consciousness. That was like the broad kind of lyrical concept. And the term slain in the spirit, when somebody is slain in the spirit, that is what you say is happening to someone when they are overwhelmed by their devotion to like God, right? So it's like, like American evangelical Christians or whatever, when they start talking tongues and the pastor takes them to the floor and those people are slain in the spirit. And we, like in that song, like kind of like sexualized it, like you're having like kind of sexual experience with God as well, like these little subtext things in the lyrics or whatever. But like, at service value, that's what that term of phrase means, to be like physically and emotionally overwhelmed by your spirituality. And so more broadly, it's kind of like to like the album when things that are unreal, more like sort of ideological or esoteric, kind of overcome your being and overtake what's real to you. And so we apply that turn of phase to encapsulate the concept, and it sounds cool.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what it is, man. Yeah.
So basically, it is being overwhelmed by your devotion and the connection that you have to that higher divine being, which you are trying to reach out to, basically. So
I mean, that's where the phase comes from. It doesn't necessarily have to be about a divine being, but I think of religious people as a religious, that's kind of one way of expressing or defining something that is going on inside of all of us. I consider it the simplistic route to just go with a sort of ascribed deity, or whatever. But there is something inside every human being, they're searching for some meaning and some spirituality, and there is something there, man. That's why we dream, and that's why we have pineal gland, and why people want to take hallucinogenic drugs, or like go on pilgrimages, or these kind of things. That people want to explore that aspect of themselves. I think a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people are searching for that, man. And so it wasn't just about what it literally means, but just sort of applying that level of sort of submission to that that exists there to the broader spectrum of these things, So we wanted to kind of create a parallel with that concept with, that album is ferociously kind of describing the experiences, it's intense. So just like, an intense experience of, your self-exploration, I guess, like however that may manifest,
So somehow ultimate submission is ultimate self-discovery, but also expansion. Is that kind of the realm that you're going into? Because you even mentioned about like a sort of like a sexual relationship with God, where it's like if to reach that point, then by the time you get there, you would be completely separate from the ego. So it would be from a place of submission, but somehow by letting go, you become complete, right? In a state of meditation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like that's one way of looking at it, but like, yeah, it's the way that these experiences change people, and the way that if you really like go there with something and like give yourself to these things, then that will change you. You won't come out the other side the same. If you have an experience which is out of body, it will be hard for you to comprehend it. It does change people,
Well, I think a part of this is because that society in itself is actually by design trying to stop us from reaching this, at least, because everything that's around us, everything from diet, from the accessibilities that we have, from the fluoride that we ingest, whether it's through tap water, from mouthwash like Listerine, or whether it's through toothpaste, that fluoride is actually calcifying everyone's pineal glands. And yes, yeah, that's correct. And there are certain things that you can do to obviously reverse this process, but it's almost like we're continuously moving in the opposite direction of enlightenment, and religion is very much slowly, and spirituality are very much slowly actually being separated from our day-to-day lives, and not in a good way. As
they exist now, they're more like societal institutions and less about you exploring these things for yourself, and more just sort of like, hey, that question you've got inside you, this is the answer. So, come on a bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, there is that for sure. I think to me, and maybe, hey, listen, perhaps this is all a process of a purging by design. Who knows? But to me, I think that there is a light. There is something that is within every single individual. It is just a matter of if they get to connect with that or not. Obviously, because the thing is as well, you can even come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, maybe there's a deeper meaning, there's a deeper sense to all of this. But even then, that is a long and hard fucking rabbit hole to go through to actually try and understand things. I mean, I myself, I've been through plenty of trials and tribulations in my own life. I'm sure that you have. But me to myself, I still feel like I don't know jack shit, and
you shouldn't trust somebody that says that they do, man.
Exactly.
The joy is the fucking the trip. you'll still learn from it. You'll never find the fucking answer, but still.
Exactly, and that's why I think that that there is something very special to that. But I also believe, like I said, that every person has this thing within them. I mean, Aleister Crowley said, "Every man and every woman is a star."
Hey, I forgot to mention him, but obviously, as it came to my head, I should have. He was someone like, obviously he's been talked about in metal many times, but yeah, for sure, like when we started examining this concept, I was like, we need to look at Crowley, because he was someone that was doing this. It wasn't, well, to some degree, it was kind of to serve his ego, but like he was putting a lot of effort in, like the way he lived his life, very contrary to everything that was on about him, to explore this and to kind of, exalt this and to change things in the world of himself and the people that were around him. I'm not saying he was a good guy at all, even like found any of the answers, but it's fascinating. He went there with it. He devoted his life to exploring these things, and that's just fucking interesting. And well, his influence, for better or worse, kind of resonates. So yeah, we examined his life and times, man, and I mentioned like hallucinogenics and stuff like that. Like he used a lot of those kinds of things in his rituals, and that's a kind of topic we talked about in, I think, Occult Ecstatic Indoctrination, track 2 on Slane, which will give you some insight into that title, Ecstatic Indoctrination. You get my drift. It's forcing people through chemical means to enter the spiritual place and experience it, to change them,
Absolutely. Well, Russ, that's fantastic. This has been a fucking awesome conversation, man. I'm really glad to finally get you on. Ever since I started the podcast, I made a big list of, not that big of a list, but I made a list of names that I wanted to get on there, and yours was on there. So I'm glad that we finally done this.
Thank you, man. And I've been enjoying it, man. Like I loved your conversation with Naut Alchemist. As you'll know, I'm a huge fan of his stuff, and
yeah.
Actually, I didn't finish the whole thing, like I said before, but like, man, you're doing great with it. You're good at it, and I don't think it's something I'd be good at, but if I did have a podcast, I would like to have you as my guest. But that's not going to happen because I don't want to do it.
Well, it's a good thing we done this one then, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll have you on again at some point, so then we can kind of trade it the other way around then. How does that sound? Yeah, we'll make up for the podcast which you never created.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll leave. See what disaster that is.
No, it's
so. What did you have for tea, man?
Yeah. All right.
Mind you, I bet lots about that.
Yeah, man. No, awesome to have you, and obviously for everyone listening, I highly urge you to go and listen to Slain in the Spirit, Necronautical's last album. It came out last year, but it's a fucking solid record. And it sounds even better live than it does on the record. Okay. And so yeah, keep an eye out for those. Obviously, we might even be sharing the stage soon sometime, but let's not talk about that just yet because it's not out yet.
But we know we'll be seeing each other around the band, man, because that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
At least every other January, then.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. Every January at the Fenton in Leeds, we're going to fucking play there.
We will never progress. It's always, that's where we're going now.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. And your dad and uncles will all show up as well. But yeah, so obviously check out Necronautical, check out Winterfylleth, and yeah, catch Russ on the road. I very much appreciate it, brother. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to call you a friend, man. I'm looking forward to
Likewise,
everything that's coming out.
You too, man. I'll see you soon, okay? Thanks a lot.
All right. Awesome. Take care, people. Thank you for listening to Iblis Manifestations, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Cheers.